Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people looking to live life at their peak potential. Chock full of real-world tools and knowledge that you can apply in your life today. By providing you with a lens into the lives, beliefs, practices, and actions of those who are already living extraordinary lives, the Performance Enhancing Podcast will help you shift your mindset or create that change in your daily rituals and habits so you can explode with success in the areas of life that are most important to you. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with SatoriPrime. Here's your host, Ilan Ferdman.
Hello, and welcome to another Performance Enhancing Podcast. I'm Ilan Ferdman, your host for part 2 interview with Jayson Gaignard. And in part 1, we obviously spoke about the struggle and what he went through before starting Mastermind Talks. In part 2, we're actually going to focus mostly on creating Mastermind Talks. We talk about the biggest hurdles or the most unexpected things that occurred while creating Mastermind Talks, and also the best rewards and unexpected rewards in creating it. He shares a crazy story about how he's $250,000 in debt and actually refunding people $43,000, which I thought was insane. We talk a lot about intuition and trusting it and what that looks like when you are a master connector. I think I make the analogy in there at some point about when people are wary of actually matchmaking between a guy and a girl because they don't know if it's going to go well. Well, with connecting, I've kind of heard the same thing. And Jayson gives me an answer of how trusting your intuition has gotten them past that. And then ultimately how creating these relationships and introducing people to each other pays back dividends down the road. A crazy, awesome story that Jayson shares. So enjoy part 2 with Jayson Gaignard, and I'll speak to you real soon. So now you start Mastermind Talks. It's blown up, obviously. Some of the best and, best speakers, best entrepreneurs, best room to be in. I'm curious from your perspective, 2 things, and we'll kind of tackle one at a time.
Sure.
What was the biggest, well, let's start with the building of it. Like, what was the biggest struggle to put something like this together, or something that was completely unexpected when you put an event like this, and you're like, oh man, if someone would have told me that, I wouldn't have probably done this thing or something?
God, everything. If somebody told me that, I wouldn't have done this thing. I mean, I don't know, like looking back now that I know so much about events, like to me, it's like, it's all, I mean, we tend to, our brains are wonderful things and they tend to romanticize about the past.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's hard to like kind of, say how rough it was and how bad it was. I think, I don't know, like part of me, it was terrifying, the selling, the process of filling the room. I mean, the target audience I'm going after is people who value their time more than they value money. Yeah. So that's a scary thing to pitch. And it's not an easy thing to pitch. So
just tell people how much the event tickets are so they get a sense, because I don't think people may understand what this is.
So yeah, and I have a unique story around this. So this year, every year we increase the quality of people in attendance, and every year we increase the price. So this year it's 6,000. But our first event, originally I asked people in the event space, friends of mine, I'm like, how much can I charge for this? I have no clue, right? I'm like, I have Tim, I have a few other speakers at this point in time, and everybody said you can't get more than $1,000. There's no way. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I charge $995. And I'm not an A/B tester or anything like that, but was sold a few tickets at $995, and then decided, I'm like, I'm going to send maybe 100, 200 people to a landing page, which is at $33.97 or $33.95 or something like that. I had just as many people sign up at the $3,000 price point than I did at the $999 price point. But the best part is that we're very, very specific as to who attends our events. Our first event, we have 4,200 entrepreneurs apply, and I went through every single application one by one. And the quality, like I had to do a lot of refunds at the $995 price point because they weren't the right fit. There's no soliciting at our events and that kind of stuff. I had better quality people at the $3,000 price point. So that was a big kind of aha moment for me. But that was one thing I wasn't expecting was how to deal with the applications. That was a nightmare because we had 4,200 that I had to literally go through one by one, do research on everybody individually, make sure their LinkedIn profile matched what they said in their application. Yeah. And that kind of stuff. And that was a huge...
And you did it all one-on-one?
So how the process worked is now we do it completely differently. Like now we say if you go on our website, and this is behind the scenes, and you opt in for more information, you'll get an opportunity. Our last two events, we have not opened it up to the general public. So our model is a little different now. But our first event, we had people apply. I went through every single application. For those who I thought were the right fit, I send them an invitation. When they secured their spot, I'd hold a phone call with them. And in that phone call, I'd assess if they were the right fit. And it was tough to assess, based on how big their business was and that kind of stuff. Because I belong to other organizations like the Entrepreneurs Organization. Your business has to do 7 figures to be a part of it. But there's people in the organization who have a business that they spend 1.2 million to make $1 million, right? And I'm like, that's not a great indication of who you are as an entrepreneur. Plus, there's people with $100 million businesses who are just jerks, right? And I don't want to surround myself with those kind of people.
Exactly.
So on those phone calls, I decided to start asking myself, at the end of every phone call, I'd ask myself, would I want to have dinner with this person? And I just knew right then and there, no matter how successful they were on paper, I knew in my heart of hearts, it was a yes or no. It was clear.
Wow.
And that's pretty much, I use my gut and intuition in that sense a lot. Now I'm getting much better at following my gut when it comes to, meeting new people and who to invest in and who to have an event and that kind of stuff. So that's how we did it for our first event. Last two events, I just identify 100 and something entrepreneurs that I think would be a great fit, reach out to them all individually. Our last event, we had 76% of those people sign up just from that individual direct invite. And this one we just sold out earlier this week. So I don't know what the conversion rate is, but I'm assuming it's probably the same, if not better. So.
And how many people?
So this one, normally we shoot for 150, depending on venue size, because venue is really important to us. Like we don't hold it in some cheap hotel or, a Marriott or something like that. We hold at a really unique location. So the one we're doing now, we were shooting for 100. We were budgeting for 150. We can only accommodate 125. So we're leaving about 100 grand on the table, not filling it up to what we were hoping. But to me, increasing that experience year over year is the most important thing. I always say we never spent a dollar on traditional advertising, but I see the customer experience investing in that as advertising. So what other people would spend in marketing on, Facebook ads or whatever kind of ads, Google retargeting, spend on wowing our attendees year over year.
Brilliant. What's been on the flip side of that? What's been the most unexpected gain from doing Mastermind Talks? What's been something you're like, wow, I never thought that I would get this benefit?
So I think the curation of it. So the importance of the curation of it, and I'll going into our first event. Again, $250,000. I was probably more in debt at that time because I was doing the event, but getting into it, I was $250,000 in personal cash debt. And I refunded $43,000 of paid tickets. So people who paid, I held a phone call with them, found out they weren't the right fit, and I refunded them. So money hit my account and I refunded it. And people thought I was crazy. And I thought for a long time I was crazy. I actually had a call with a few mentors and I'm like, am I doing the right thing? And they said, you're crazy. But in my heart of hearts, I'm like, I just want to surround myself with other amazing people. And if you have one dud in a room, it can completely ruin the entire environment. 100%. And I started from an integrity perspective. I was debating with myself. I'm like, what happens? This person just spent $4,000 to come to this event. If I put them at the back of the room and tell them not to talk to anybody, can I get away with it? I just tried to stay within integrity. I refunded those who I thought were not the right fit. And it turned out to be a huge success. That's really the quality of the event really comes down to the quality of people in the room. And it's something I'm 120% confident in now, but originally I wasn't. I didn't know how it would go. So that's probably the biggest thing. And also community. People are yearning for community. Well, we say all the time, people may come to an event or our event for content, but what they'll leave with is community. And that's what I'm a firm believer that the true measure of the success of an event is what happens after it. The stuff that goes behind the scenes where people are, having coffee together, they're helping each other with, business book cover designs or whatever the case, it doesn't cease to amaze. And that's the tough thing as an event producer or creating that environment. You can't track that.
Yeah.
You just randomly hear about it from here and there every once in a while. But that is the biggest payoff to me, is see people connecting and going and becoming really close friends and all that kind of stuff.
Do you find it's interesting? I met a guy, do you know Chris Daigle?
Yeah. So I added him to Facebook because we have like 100 on Facebook because we have like 150 mutual friends. And I feel like I brushed by him at one point in time years ago. But no, I haven't I added him literally a couple of weeks ago. I haven't.
That's funny. You two should connect. He's amazing. He used to be Ryan Dice's like affiliate manager and manager for the business. They used to call him Dr. Daigle.
Got it. Okay.
So anyway, I met him about 3 or so years ago, and just like one of the most, he's what I call a master connector, which is how I kind of see you now too. And that distinction had never occurred to me prior to having met him. I understood how people network, but the way he did it, I'd never seen before. And I remember sitting across from lunch from him, and I was like, Daigle, when I grow up, I want to be you. And he was laughing and took back. He's like, you know what? Like, I'm just curious. And I told him pretty much what I said to you. I've found, and I really took it on at the end of last year. So like December of last year, I really started taking on connecting people, not having any focus on a benefit to me or anything like that. It's just like listening to people for what they're up to. And then I kind of go through my Rolodex of who they would match up well with, like that I know, and just make email introductions or phone introductions, whatever it is, right? So I find that skill to be incredible. People that I speak to, from what I've heard, and I'm curious your take on it, what I heard is they're afraid of like, you know, like when you matchmake, right? It's like, oh, I don't know. She's like this, he's like that. But then there's amazing matchmakers where they're just like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to put these two people together. I have a feeling. And I feel like people that I speak to are afraid to do that, whether they think their name is going to be tarnished, whether they think, I don't know what they think. What separates master connectors from the average Joe? Like, what is something, you said you're a great curator. You've connected amazing minds. What separates that? Like, what's a skill set that you've developed that has allowed you to do that?
I think where a lot of people miss the mark when it comes to networking, relationship building, is they focus too much on the tactics. And, you know, to me, it's hard for me to talk about this because it's who I am, and it comes from a deep sense of caring about people. Like, I think as a networker or super connector, you're primed to see connections where other people don't. And you leverage your network to help others, really, right? So very much like you, like somebody says, I'm coming out with a book, don't know necessarily, dude, I have a dozen people I can refer you to that have been behind some of the biggest bestsellers in the last 10, 15 years. Like, and that, again, that gets me off, right? So there's, at the same time, you know, you're never going to bat 100%. I've had like maybe one, I guess, major hit or major failure to some degree that didn't go off well, but I had such good rapport that the guy's like, dude, it's not your fault. Like, the guy was like off or whatever. And I cleaned it up. But so, I mean, really, I don't know how many connections I do, but I do a hell of a lot. I mean, sometimes multiple connections a day. And I mean, they definitely outweigh the bad ones. It's like 99-1 easily. So I think it comes from a deep sense of caring. I think there's a great saying that business like life is all about how you make people feel. It's that simple and it's that hard. And it's really, I don't know, dude. It's one of those things. Like, I know the most value I can deliver to others is to introduce them to other amazing people. And I have such a tight knit network. And that's the one thing about me too. Like, I'm not looking for new people. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really not. Like, I'm not adding. Everybody's looking like, who's next? Who should I connect with next? And all that kind of stuff. And how can I have more people? And I say it all the time. It's not how many friends you can count. It's how many friends you can count on. Yeah, and, for sure. You know, the people in my network now, I just want to go deep with them. You know what I mean? Like, just go deeper and be a better friend to them and that kind of stuff. And some people will come along, but I'm definitely not in the collection game, trying to have more Facebook friends or have more LinkedIn contacts or whatever, just for, you know, to judge my self-worth based on how many Twitter followers I have or something like that. So I don't know. It's tough because like I said, it comes from I'd say it comes naturally to some degree, but I think the underlying thing is that it just comes from a deep level of caring. And then all the tactics on top of that I've learned along the way, or some of them I just came up on my own, and some of them I've learned from others. Simply amplify that, right? It's like almost like marketing. Ryan Holiday had this. He spoke at our first Mastermind Talks event, and he said he's like, I'm not a magician. He's like, if your product is crap, good marketing is just going to let people know your product is crap quicker. You know what I mean? And the same thing when it comes to like networking, relationship building. If you worry about the tactics and you're not authentic, you're not somebody with integrity, those kind of things, you're selfish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Getting deep diving into the tactics aren't going to serve you well, because then people are just going to find out who you are even quicker. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but
it does. I mean, I think what you're alluding to there is also that there's where shitty networkers network with an agenda, I think.
Sure. Yeah. 100%.
And what I've found is, I don't know if you feel the same way, where it's like, I think human beings, the sixth sense that everyone talks about is this like bullshit meter, where someone could say the right things. Kind of like when you were on the phone with people, they can say the right things, they have the right type of business, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're like, there's something, there's that thing that you can't put a finger on. I always tell people, like, you can meet the best salesman in the world. They'll say everything right to you, and you're like, I'm not buying from this guy. He's a scumbag. Yeah. And there's nothing in there, anything that would say that, other than this like sixth sense that we have. And I feel like people pick up on that in networking events, and you meet these, like you said, douchebags. Like, just because you have $100 million business doesn't mean that you can add value to my life or other people's life.
Sure.
Likewise, someone that has $100,000 business could be the most impactful person you've ever met.
100%. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm at a point now, and getting back to intuition and your gut on people. There's certain individuals who I meet, and they're not even like, I don't even know from a business perspective if there's a connection or how they can help each other. But I just have this strong gut feeling from an energy perspective. And I'm not a spiritual guy, that if I put those two in a room, they would kick it off. A perfect example is James Altucher and AJ Jacobs. James Altucher actually just interviewed me for his Ask Altucher podcast, which came out 2 days ago. And actually he's going to take that same episode and put it on his main podcast in a few days. And he was talking about, like, at the first Mastermind Talks event where he spoke, he met all these amazing people, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the people he met was AJ Jacobs. And I at the event, I went up to AJ and I'm like, do you know James Altucher? And he's like, no. And I'm like, dude, you have to know this guy. And ended up connecting them. They do Skype lunches where they both hop on Skype and they eat lunch and talk.
That's so funny.
And AJ found out that they're distant cousins through like 23andMe and stuff like that. So yeah, it's I don't know. Like I said, that kind of stuff to me is the biggest payoff. And one thing is that people forget sometimes who was that catalyst that connected them, which is the kind of the crappy part in some scenarios. But regardless, I mean, it's one of the greatest ways to add value to others is by connecting them with other amazing individuals.
Hey guys, I just want to take a quick break here and let you know about our 10-day challenge. All you have to do is head over to SatoriPrime.com/10day, the number 10 day. And in it, we give you a 10-part video series that is absolutely changing lives, and it's completely free. It's a mindset shift in what is possible for you in your life right now. So I just want to read to you what someone has just written me. And they said, what did the 10-day challenge create for me? In summary, a plan of action. A man with a goal and a plan is unstoppable. Your 10-day challenge allowed me to take all that confusion and fear of my situation and see it was a period of transition. I have a plan. I've taken action and I'm implementing. Success is just over the horizon. And that could be the case for you. So head over to SatoriPrime.com/10day, the number 10 day, and grab your 10 free videos today and create a plan of success for you. Now back to the episode. And do you find that now that you have, because we were talking before, right? Like maybe I'm not as wealthy, but socially, you have one of the wealthiest networks ever. This is a strange question to ask. I always feel like when you connect people, it's like putting karmic dollars in a universal bank, right? Sure. Like you don't have to focus on an immediate result, which is I think where shitty networkers focus. It's just like do that and know that by doing that, somehow it will come back to you. This lifetime, next lifetime, whatever the hell you believe. What have you seen in reality of like putting all these amazing people in the room, starting to connect all these people? What have you seen start to transform and bubble in your life as a product of that?
Actually, I owe my life to the people in my network, like without a doubt. I mean, I just spent literally, I don't know if it was offline or online when we talked about it, but I was literally in the Bahamas a week ago with like 20 of my favorite people on the planet. Like, I mean, from just a fulfillment perspective, there's nothing better. And I know we never want to kind of like say that like what we're doing is going into like this, karma bank or something like that. Cause then you start thinking transactional. Like if I do this, Cialdini says, I'm going to have some rapport with you and I'm going to pull that trigger with it. I mean, I have people in my network who have done nothing but deliver value to them for the past 4 or 5 years. And I have nothing to ask in sight. And a lot of these people are like, dude, you're killing me. How can I help you?
Exactly.
Like it hurts. Like, just, can you please? And I actually have there's a guy named John Corcoran, who has a podcast. I forget what his podcast is called, but great dude, former White House lawyer or whatever. And he's one of those guys to me. Like, he just keeps on like delivering this value and putting me in Forbes and doing all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, now I'm starting to feel what other people feel. We're like, dude, let me just do something for you because it's driving me bananas.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a great story I like to illustrate the power of relationship building. Yeah. And is actually around Mastermind Talks, in the sense that 3 years ago, it's got to be 5 years now. So 5 years ago, I went to an event called Opening the Kimono, which actually I think Chris went to because Ryan Dice was there. And that's probably how I brushed by Chris. And I'll talk to him afterwards about that.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll connect us.
Yeah, there you go.
So what happened was, went to this event 5 years ago. It was geared towards authors and becoming a best-selling author. And it was put on by Tim. I never had the intention of ever becoming an author, but it was $10,000 to go. And I'm like, at a $10,000 price point for 2 days, there's bound to be probably some interesting people there. So I decided to pull the trigger on it. I went to the event, and people in my circle at that point in time thought I was crazy. After the event, some people asked me, did you get your $10,000 worth of value from the 2 days? And the truth was I didn't. Like, I didn't have even any way to monetize what I learned or anything, because I wasn't going to be an author. But I just had this strong gut feeling that, again, connecting with those amazing people was just a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
And I did some stuff afterwards to follow up with some of the speakers and some of the attendees I wanted to stay in touch with. Fast forward to Mastermind Talks. Again, never thought I'd be in the event space. 5 speakers who spoke at Mastermind Talks for free were people I met at that event 2 years prior. I had 3 or 4 people in the Mastermind Talks audience who I met at that event. That was a $3,000 price tag. I had 2 people who signed up for my $20,000 a year mastermind group from that event 2 years prior. So if you add up what I would have paid in speaker fees and the lost revenue from the tickets and the mastermind group, it comes out to something like $245,000 that I would have had to spend outright for an investment I made, 2 years prior at $10,000. And the beautiful thing is, those are relationships. Like that's where I met Ryan Holiday. I'm going to see Ryan next month in Austin, Texas. Like, as long as I don't kick the bucket tomorrow, the ROI from that one event is going to pay off in the millions as far as dividends in the future. And you don't look at it like that, but I love sharing that story to give people an idea. Like, you don't necessarily know how you can leverage these relationships, so you shouldn't look at it like that. But this is a great example of, for me, just one scenario that financially I can tie ROI to relationships.
100%. I love that story. And it makes it real for people. There is that, what we were talking about is pretty much law of reciprocity. It's like, you open the door for someone, they're going to try to open the door for you. You buy someone a drink, like the next round they're buying you a drink. It's just, we're programmed to do that. Sure. Do you watch House of Cards by any chance?
No.
Okay. Well, Kevin Spacey is the main character. And he's evil. He's an evil motherfucker. But he uses this law of reciprocity to like the utmost degree in an evil sense. But I actually did a podcast, I called it like the Frank Underwood effect, where he does something so amazing for someone where he'll like save them from their lowest low. Now, they don't know he always has an agenda to like get something from them. But to them, like, they can't resist but to offer him help afterwards. And it's, you know, I got this email from someone who I sat at dinner with, and I like analyzed their whole business and told them where to look and how to research. And afterwards, for like 3 days, they're like, how can I help you? Who can I connect you with? I'm like, dude, I don't want anything. It's
the funny thing is sometimes, cause I'm just, you know, I have a great network of just givers. We'll get into like at the end of a conversation, I always end a call, like, let me know how I can support you. Let me know how I can deliver value. What can I help you with that?
Yeah.
The other person's always the same way. And we'll get back and forth. Like, who's going to end on the note, like, how can I deliver value to you, and then hang up? You know what I mean? Because it becomes this like back and forth, almost like when you're walking down the street and somebody else is walking, and then you start going back and forth, like which way you're going to go. Kind of the same thing. So
that's really funny. Yeah. That reminded me of like, I don't know why, but you know, when we were dating back in the day, and it's like, you hang up first. Okay, I'm sorry. I can hear you breathing.
It's true. So
awesome. So Jayson, I always end up the podcast when I interview people with this question, and we kind of spoke a lot about this, but I'm curious if maybe you have a different answer. The cliche of, I wish I knew then what I know now. And you've clearly had, you know, massive experience and massive ups and downs and stuff like that. But if you could go back and just tell yourself from something that you know today, like, hey, Jayson, live this way, or, you know, whatever it is, what would you tell yourself?
You know what? It's one of those things. First thing that came to mind was, I have no regrets, which oftentimes people say that and it's just BS, right? So That's one thing. Really what came up in my head was the importance of self-worth. A lot of entrepreneurs, you dig into their business, it's amazing how much some of these like unconscious drivers drive us. I'll give you a perfect example. About 8 months ago, I was driving my car, ended up at a red light. Mine was completely blank. I thought of the words my father saying that he was proud of me, and I broke into tears.
Wow.
Like, what the is this about? This makes no sense. It came out of left field. I haven't seen my father for a few weeks. I love my father, but it was so weird. And I started to dig into it, and I realized like this need to have his approval has been driving my business, has been driving my, like, it's been such a driver. And it's incredible, especially in the mastermind setting that, you know, that we do. And probably you run into this all the time as well. When you start peeling off the layers of, oh, I want $1 billion business and I want this, and you start getting down to it, how low a lot of people's self-worth is. And I struggle with this as well. And now I'm aware of it, so I'm building it up. But I mean, that when you have a struggle with like selling your product, can sometimes be tied to self-worth. If you have a problem with pricing, you know, I don't want to charge too much or whatever, that oftentimes is tied to self-worth. So it's coming out of left field. I know probably a little bit, but it's really top of mind. As soon as you said that, I'm like, just the importance of confidence and self-worth.
Amazing. Yeah, I think a lot of people, you know, grow up and a rampant conversation is like, I'm not enough. So I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not this enough. I'm whatever enough. I've done personal development work now for 12 plus years. You're constantly peeling a different layer. It's the same conversations will always arise. It's just constantly a different cut at them from maybe slightly a different angle. I don't know that it truly ever gets unprogrammed, like out of the system.
Yeah.
But you definitely will reach different places. And I think the context also that you put yourself in allows you to see things, right? So if like you're living kind of a very comfortable one note type of life, you don't need to take a look at those things.
Sure. No,
that's why I love entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We dig and dig.
That's the one thing with us. I mean, for Mastermind Talks, we usually say that an entrepreneur is somebody goes from working in their business to on their business, but there's a second tier of entrepreneur that goes from working on their business to working on themselves. And those are the type of people we put in our event. And those are people who've made it financially, like I did, and they got there and they realized it was unfulfilling, and they're like, now what? Which is one of the scariest things ever. When you reach it and you're like, this is not what I thought it would be. Then you start digging deeper. Again, those guys who want $1 billion company, you say, well, what would $1 billion company get you? And you start digging deeper and you realize it's something from their childhood that's been driving them, and they're not aware of it either. They're not bad people, but a lot of us are on this entrepreneurial hamster wheel where we build a business we hate to enable us to buy things we don't need, to impress people we don't even like.
Exactly.
And hard to get off.
Yeah. It's interesting. I find a lot of entrepreneurs, start their business and then realize after, like, they really need to work on themselves and start analyzing and do all that stuff. Guy and I kind of were like the complete opposite. We worked on ourselves for a whole bunch of years and then came into business. And it was interesting to see the level to which people were working on themselves. Yeah. Because a lot of people reach success really fast. Like you said, they get all this money and then they like sit in the field one day where everyone from the outside would be like, dude, you have the dream life. And they're like empty, just completely empty. And it's, you know, I love that we surround ourselves, you and I, with people that maybe have gone through that, but are now like on the other side of that. Yeah. And are really trying to contribute to the world and society, this whole other angle. And I think that's why everyone that we surround ourselves with are givers. Sure. Because we know it's not about that other shit.
100%.
All right. Where can people connect with you? Because Mastermind sold out, guys, so you can't get in there anyway. But where can they find out about you and hopefully get in there in the future?
Yeah, so I mean, I put a lot of tactical stuff. I got asked a lot about tactics, how I sold out Mastermind Talks, how I relationship build and networking and that kind of stuff. So I wrote a book called Mastermind Dinners on Amazon, which thankfully is going really well. And then I have a podcast on my own where I do a lot of solo episodes, which is mmtpodcast.com.
Awesome. I'll put all the links there. You guys should definitely check out Jayson's podcast because a lot of, he does some solo stuff, but a lot of the talks that are giving him Mastermind Talks are also on there.
I've always felt weird about that because people spend $5,000-$6,000 to go and I'm giving away the talks for free. But again, the value is not, I mean, the talks are phenomenal, but it's really the quality of people in the room. But yeah, a lot of the great talks can be found in there.
And they're for free.
And they're free,
so
exactly.
It's pretty awesome. Like, you know, the room that, again, that just goes to the point, like, it's the experience and the room, not the talks. And that's why it's awesome that the people are even willing to let you post that stuff, right? But that speaks to who they are.
Well, I mean, just a testament to that is that they have enough trust in me that we sold out the event at $5,000-$6,000 and we haven't announced any speakers.
Amazing.
It's very different, right? So
amazing. Jayson, such a blast having you here. Thank you so much for taking time. And can't wait to be at this event real soon.
Yeah, dude, I will be in New York sometime. I will definitely connect with you.
Awesome. And I'll connect you to Daigle.
Please. Mr. Connector, super connector over here. Awesome.
There it is. All right, buddy. Have an amazing day.
Thanks, brother. Bye.
So it's actually very interesting for me to listen back to this podcast with Jayson. I actually took a break from it, came back, edited it, and redid this outro because there was something that resonated. And it's something that I've started to notice in people that surround themselves in really incredible networks. I don't know if you noticed about the way Jayson speaks, but there's a certain ease, relaxedness, peace about the way he shares. And I think when you surround yourself with people who are great and pull greatness from you, that's what gets pulled. And by that, I mean, there's this great line I heard someone say, just do you. And I feel like when you surround yourself with people that honor and acknowledge and love you just the way you are, you get to be like Jayson, free. And so if you don't feel that way, maybe what there is to do is actually look at your network. Maybe what there is to do is upgrade that network. And for some of you, that might be to buy your way into one of these mastermind talks or buy your way into a mastermind, etc. But whatever it is, it's just take stock of the people that surround you. And if you don't feel that way, then maybe there's some changes that you want to be making. So I just wanted to share that because it kind of left me with that as I listened back to this. So I hope you enjoyed this 2-part interview with Jayson Gaignard, and definitely check out his podcast. There are some golden talks on that podcast. And I'll see you on the next Performance Enhancing Podcast.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Performance Enhancing Podcast. We've taken this pep talk and created a custom action guide so you know exactly what action steps to take now to grow your business. Just head over to SatoriPrime.com/podcast and download it for free. Also, please leave a comment and rate this podcast on iTunes. It'll help us get the word out. Thanks for listening. Now, go and implement. We'll see you next time.
Did you run through doors